take all the experiences that you have and maybe kind of turn lemons into lemonade. What's up, y'all? I wanted to talk about creativity and creative problem solving. I don't think I've made any secret of it, that I never saw myself as a creative person. I went to school, I'm pretty sure I've talked about this before. I went to school for graphic design as a practical thing. Lots of reasons behind that, but that we don't need to go into right now. But I was always a technical guy. I was always the, straight up, I wanted to be an astronaut from forever. And I went into Civil Air Patrol because that was a good way to get into the Air Force, and the Air Force was a really good way to get into NASA and like the whole thing. Anyway, I went through stages. I even went to trade school to learn electronics because that had to do with, the space shuttle. And like, I went through this arc from before junior high. I had that interest, but anyway, that's neither here nor there, but it does kind of tie into the creative mindset and the ability to think creatively about things. So I've been a technical guy, and I've brought that technical understanding and interest into the creative world. And it's not until fairly recently that I've actually been able to identify as a creative person. I always kind of felt like I was faking it, I guess. I don't know. It wasn't imposter syndrome. It was different. Like I felt like I was kind of like hiding in the shadows, and even though I got straight A's in college, pretty much, I always saw the other creative people being like so much better than me. Like I excelled at the technical stuff, like the coding and whatnot. But anyway, the idea of creative problem solving has really helped me to be very successful, at least what I identify as success. Everybody has a different definition of success, but in my last job, I told you a little bit of a story about 2020 and how, we had to rework that, not the entire campaign, but that video that was like, it was a year in production, and then having to be a little creative with the limitations that we had in 2020. But it's more than that. It was being able to draw upon thinking differently, that I think a lot of creative people, and there's more creative people out there than they want to give themselves credit for. Like I just said about myself, there's so many people that don't identify as being creative, but they really are. At some point, I started to see things a different way. I started to, I guess because it's kind of like I'm flexing that muscle, that creativity muscle. So it's like going to the gym, and, it takes a while, but you start to, build up those muscles, and you start to, look real good. And it's the same thing for that creativity muscle. But I was able to make it through 2020 and be very busy. Like I was saying the other day, I was very busy when other people weren't, because I had so much to draw on. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up that NASA thing, because I went through a certain direction to get where I wanted to go and to be an astronaut. I'm not an astronaut because I actually met an astronaut. He came to high school. I was like senior year, I think. And he ended up really kind of destroying my world, not meaning to. But he was saying that you need to have perfect vision, which I don't. Ever since I was a kid, when I was a baby, I was born with a cataract. And even corrected, even with surgery, it's still nowhere near perfect vision, not what you need. So that and a couple other things. And so I realized when I'm supposed to be graduating that all of a sudden my world got turned upside down. I knew what my direction was the entire time. And then, just kidding, kid, you can't And I could have still done space and whatnot, but what I wanted to do was to be an astronaut, not just be involved in space. So anyway, I kind of reconfigured and whatever. So that experience that I had, though, with all the technical background and getting really into science and like seismology, and I was into seismology and mineralogy and things like that, even though it had nothing to do with being an astronaut. I mean, you could apply some of that. But I ended up going into the fire auxiliary, the fire department auxiliary. So I was a volunteer fireman. And I was trying out all these different things, and I've worn lots of hats, is my point. At one point in time, I saw that as a negative. I saw that as I felt like I was directionless in life, and that I didn't know what I wanted. I mean, I did up until that got shattered. And then I didn't know what I wanted, and I was in my 20s, sometime in my 20s, when I felt like, oh, well, I'm a space cadet, like mentally, you know. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. And I saw it as a negative because a lot of people, you know, you have to know what you want to do before you graduate high school. You're supposed to know what you want to do. And like, what do you want to do when you grow up? It's like, it's time to figure that out and go to college and spend all that money. And the idea of this story time is to talk about how I've been very successful and confident in later years because I had so much to draw on, so much experience to draw on. So the things that I learned and experienced in, like, let's say Civil Air Patrol, which if you don't know, it's another volunteer organization through the Air Force. It's the Air Force Auxiliary. We do search and rescue missions. So if a plane goes down, a civilian plane goes down, and no one's around to hear it, we go out and find it. And so I had a lot of different experiences through that. We went through military boot camp. It wasn't really military, but we had BDUs. We had the battle dress uniforms, you know, the camo and everything. Go through the whole process of getting our beds thrown out the window if they're not made right, or if they're made too good, they destroy it. It sounds crazy. Those experiences that I had, I've been able to draw on, even with just being able to relate to other people. I've had conversations with clients, either on the phone or I'd be there, especially on construction sites. I do construction photography, and I'd be there and I'd meet other guys that were in the military or, you know, on the fire department or in the trades. I have a lot of trade background. I told you that about my dad. And so I've been able to, at the very least, partially talk the talk. Even if I couldn't walk the walk, I could relate to people on a very personal and deep level. If they're like a tradesman, I'm very comfortable in the trenches because I was a tradesman for years. I'm able to understand their world enough to be respectful of it, and really kind of enhance. I'm not just a photographer. I am a photographer, but I'm able to help tell their story because I've partially lived it. I might not have lived, I don't live their life, and I might not have been a construction worker, but I can relate. You know, you're there to take photos, right? And you're standing there at the job site and you're taking some photos, and they might say something about, oh, whatever, XYZ. And because you have these experiences that you can draw on, you might be able to solve a problem for them. And that enhances your relationship. And at the very least, you might be able to kind of point them in a direction. I might not know the answer myself, but I might be more engaged to try to help, and try to I love problem solving and being a creative person, and having the technical and the creative side and flexing both parts of that brain have really helped me to feel pretty well-rounded and give me a lot of confidence with being able to, you know, I might have a technical problem and I need to think creatively, or vice versa. And so anyway, this kind of goes back, kind of goes back to like feeling bad about feeling directionless. And I felt that way for so long. But this initially started, this video initially started with this little guy. So you see this little guy? That guy, I just posted this on my Instagram. This is a 3D print that his legs fell off. They broke off. Okay, so you can see right there. So what I did was I did some Photoshop work, and I was like, oh man, how can we turn this lemon into lemonade? And so I had a lot of fun with it. So it's a long story to get to a short point, but that's me. So the idea of being able to take all the experiences that you have and maybe kind of turn lemons into lemonade. Every little thing that you can draw on helps. So don't kill yourself over feeling like an imposter in something. Don't kill yourself over, feeling directionless. Just keep moving in a direction, and you might end up having to go down a path and then realize, oh, this is the wrong path. I shouldn't have done this. And then you turn back and then choose the other path and say, oh, I should have gone left instead of right. But just take everything that you can from that path. Take in everything that you can from the path that you took, the first one that you said, I need to turn around. So just don't be too hard on yourself, and you'll eventually get to where you're trying to go. Anyway, that's all I have for you. It started with this little dude, and it went on to that whole long tangent. But what do you want? This is story time, right? All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Until next time, be good to each other.